Well, hello, William. It's great to meet you. And also, congrats on your MCU debut.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to talk with you.
Yeah, man, you're no stranger to comic book projects, though. You know, you were in The Gifted and Swamp Thing, and now you have Captain America. How does it feel to, you're kind of like the comic book project guy now? It's pretty cool. I mean, you've done a lot of amazing things, but it's very rare to jump, through all these, Marvel, DC, and who knows what else is going to come your way to comic books. How does that feel?
As a kid, I love comics. So every time I get to work on a comic book project, I just feel like I'm 8 years old again. I love it.
No, I'm the same way. And a fun fact about you is you are a poli sci major. I'm a poli sci major. I didn't go to law school. My sister did. So I saw all the hard work and how much you have to break your back to do it. And I did not do that at all. So I was like, I'm not made for this. But I thought that was a little fun fact about you is that now you're in this industry and you're playing in these great shows, great films, and you don't have to do what you major in. That's what pretty much I'm getting at.
I hated working in the law. So I've got buddies who love it and is their passion, but I realized very quickly it was not my passion. So luckily I was able to get out of that field and get into something I actually enjoyed.
No, I love it. Brave New World, such a fun film, great timing. It was made for the perfect, Valentine's Day weekend date. For those that haven't seen it yet, it's plenty of time to see it. It just came out. So we're definitely not going to really dive into spoilers. I don't feel like that's fair. I don't want to do that at all. But I do want to talk about, your love for comic books as well. Growing up, you were a big Captain America fan. So what was it like stepping into the MCU and working on this film? I mean, when you step onto an MCU set, like, what are you feeling?
It was unlike any other project I've ever worked on. I've been doing this for a long time, and just the level of everything, the sets, the crew. I mean, Julius Ona, the director, was amazing. But I was, I was just when I booked the job, I was pleasantly shocked. You know what I mean? And I don't get nervous really. I've been doing this a long time, but I'll say I was a little nervous my first day of working. I was like, this is, especially my very first scene was with, Anthony Mackie, who I've been a huge fan of for years. And, I loved his work in all the films in the MCU. So I definitely felt a few butterflies that first day. So.
Can you kind of talk us into? I'm fascinated by the MCU and just the behind the scenes stuff. Like, what's the casting process like? Like, what do they send you when they said there's a role for you that you're able to be a part of? Like, what do they send you? Like a one page, nothing? Do you know anything about your character that you could possibly play? How's it like to enter the MCU?
They're pretty tight with the scripts. So what they sent me was they're called sides, the scenes they send you to do the audition with. And they sent me fake sides with very little information about the character. So I kind of went into it a little blind. And as far as even after I booked it, the script was tightly controlled. I would get my scenes the night before we would film. So it was always a little bit of like, oh gosh, I hope I have enough time to, to learn the line to do an okay job. But I basically, I got the initial audition and, did my thing. And what was kind of crazy is the initial audition was for a 1 day, one scene role in the film. And I showed up and did it and had an amazing time. And they just kept calling me back for more and more scenes. And every time I'd get that email from my agent, I would just do a little emotional cartwheel. I was I just felt like a little kid in a candy store. It was so much fun.
Yeah, your character is great and kind of threw me in a loop a few times. I wasn't sure, what your character was going to be and where was it going to take us. I don't want to give too much away, but your character is also a really awesome Easter egg as well for the MCU and for comic fans. If your younger self could see you now in this, Captain America: Brave New World, what do you think his reaction would have been?
I wouldn't have believed it. After I worked the first day on the movie, and I don't normally do this, but I emailed the casting directors and I literally said, if I never book another job the rest of my career, I'll die happy. You know what I mean? It was just, yeah, every day of working on it was I just have to pinch myself, because again, I grew up. Now I was a Marvel Comics guy, DC was cool, but I really loved Captain America. I loved the X-Men. I loved Wolverine. I loved all that stuff. So for me, it was just, it was a little boy's dream come true.
Yeah, I believe it. It's so cool. A kind of full circle moment for you. You know, we don't want to give away spoilers because there's still this movie's so fresh in theaters and people are going to see it this whole month and so forth. How would you describe your character? What can you tell us about your character?
Well, it's Commander Dennis Dunphy. He is a Navy SEAL, and he's an old friend of Sam Wilson. And Sam asked him to do a favor, and that kind of puts him on his course through the film. Um, I don't know if you want to talk about the Easter egg or not, but I thought that was kind of a fun little homage to a very minor character in the comics. So
I mean, we definitely can. I mean, it's in the name is already with Demolition Man, which is super awesome. Definitely, I think people are going to be buying those like comic books that have your character in there. You know, that's what people do when they see who's popping up here and there.
right.
But that's a really cool Easter egg. So we can give one away for sure. We can give a little bit of a tease. Yeah, you talk about an all-star cast. I mean, this is amazing, you know, with everyone in there. But can you talk about some memorable times on set and just, you know, being with Mackie and doing those scenes and how many times y'all change it up much, you know, doing maybe some retakes on that, reshoots on some of your scenes? Did y'all change up some of the lines at all? Just playing off each other, maybe?
Yeah, there was a little bit of improv, not a ton. I'll say this about Anthony. He is hands down the funniest actor I have ever worked with. The hardest part of my job, obviously, you saw the film. I don't have many funny scenes in the movie, but I would just be laughing so hard between takes. And it was kind of like trying to focus again and get ready to do my next take because he just kept us all, the crew and all the other actors, he just kept us laughing constantly. Yeah, he was everything that an A-list actor should be. You know, he was talented, charming, welcoming. I mean, I came in as, you know, this one day actor, you know, just in awe of everything around me. And he was so warm and inviting. I literally, if I didn't know he was a famous actor, he would just seem like a guy next door.
Yeah, he seems like a cool dude, pretty much.
Mhm.
You have a lot, you know, your uniform, your gear looks like it's obviously looks really real. I'm assuming everything is real on you. How does it feel to have your gear and uniform on?
It was fun, man. You know, what little boy doesn't want to dress up and play and play military? What was cool, they had a couple of Navy SEALs who actually did a little training with me and kind of showing me the right things to do. You know, how to enter the doors, how to hold the guns and such. But it was, I mean, yeah, I remember the first time I put the wardrobe on, I looked in the mirror, I was like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah, such great, you know, practical costumes and sets in this film. You know, the MCU is also known for keeping secrets. So how tough was it to keep the details about being a part of the film and your character? I mean, they have like snipers on buildings, you know, making sure no one's spilling things, no one's being like Tom Holland ruining things. But, you know, how difficult is it though when you're working on an MCU project? Like, I want to talk to someone about it, but I can't. I have to wait till the movie comes out to even say, you know, even who I'm playing. How tough was that?
You know, it wasn't tough because they made it very, very clear that I wasn't to do that. So I just followed the rules. And you know, I remember before the premiere, you know, I was walking the red carpet and a lot of reporters were asking me these very detailed questions about the plot and what happens to the character. And I'm just like, guys, I can't say anything. The movie hasn't played yet, you know? But you know, I love the excitement of kind of knowing what was coming. But yeah, they were clear to not talk about it at all. So I followed what they.
Yeah, can we talk about, you know, the amazing director, Julius really brought this to life. I mean, it's a tough job, especially something that's so different and, you know, the storyline is so intricate and also introducing new characters, bringing back old characters, kind of finishing off some storylines from other films. I mean, can you talk about how he was on set and really delivering a really fun film?
Julius was one of the best directors I've ever worked with. You know, if you've ever met him, he's very soft spoken, very charming. He had a precision to his directing that was so nice. You know, sometimes you work with directors and they give you these very vague things they want you to kind of reach. But anytime Julius gave a note, it was just so precise and so helpful. He also allowed you to play, you know, and let you kind of explore a little bit. He was just one of the most down to earth guys I've ever met. I mean, I've worked with some big directors before, and Julius is obviously right up there. And he just had this air about him that he was like a guy next door, you know, just a very, very kind, And he was very kind, but his knowledge of the Marvel universe, just listening to him talk about the characters, you can tell this guy loves the Marvel universe. And as a fellow fan, you always worry you get on these movies with a director who's not into it, and you could tell Julius was into it.
Yeah, I mean, these films are really about world building too, and also telling isolated stories, but there's also more to it. These MCU films. I mean, it's crazy how long we've been going. Do you remember the first time you saw the first Iron Man movie, and what you think about this MCU that really wasn't around, but now we look where we are now.
I remember seeing it, and the funny thing, I wasn't a huge Iron Man comic fan, but I was like, oh, I'll go check it out. And obviously, like everyone else, I love the movie. Robert Downey Jr. was just brilliant in that role. But I think this was the 35th film in the MCU.
I can't believe saying that. It's so weird because I feel like it was yesterday that I went to go see the Iron Man movie and stayed for the end credit scene. I was like, whoa, what is this? Is this really going to happen? And look what they've been delivering. And
I'm amazed at their ability to not only maintain the storylines and the character relationships on such a broad scale. And that doesn't even count all the shows they have. It's something that's way above my pay grade, but I am very impressed by what those guys do.
If you could play a Marvel character, or even let's go Marvel or DC, other than who you just played in Brave New World, what other hero or villain would you like to play?
Oh my gosh. There's so many that I love. I'll tell you an interesting story. For years now, at least once a week, I'll be at the grocery store shopping or what have you. And someone comes up to me and says, "You look just like Wolverine." And it's very strange because no one has ever said I look like Hugh Jackman, because he's a very good looking dude. I think it's maybe because I look kind of rough, I look homeless a lot with my hair kind of crazy. But to be honest, I'd be happy to play any role in the MCU. You know what I mean? Like when I got this role, I was so thrilled about it. But I've never watched one of the MCU films and thought, man, that's a character I wouldn't want to play.
That's true. I see Wolverine. When you mentioned you were a fan of the X-Men growing up, I'm like, yes, very Wolverine. I even had the Wolverine look in like junior high school, because I had this beard. I had facial hair very young, but I had the chops and stuff, and I did my hair. That's when the X-Men, in 2000 came out, and I was just a kid, and I was like, I got facial hair, so for some reason I'm growing pretty fast. let me be Hugh Jackman in school. Right. I mean, and that's just crazy from where we are with the X-Men and Spider-Man to where we are now. That Kevin Feige is still delivering some goods with the MCU. It's wild. You've played a wide variety of roles on television and film. I mean, it's amazing everything you've done. And you've obviously done, now this superhero blockbuster, but how does it compare to the other projects? What's the scale when you walk in? Like, what's the major difference between everything else that you've done?
The only thing that's not different is my job, right? As an actor, whether you're working on a $50 student film or a $200 million blockbuster, an actor's job is exactly the same. But looking around, I mean, just everything from the set design, the crew, the level of equipment. I was just, every day I was blown away at just the level. Number one, Kevin obviously has done an amazing job at holding all this together, but he's also assembled a team that they are all top notch from every department. I was blown away at their professionalism and their ability, like just changing a set around. The crew just moved like clockwork to move in, fix things, move things around. Because, sometimes things are getting blown up or, what have you. And all of it was at a massive scale. It's kind of like what I imagined a Marvel film would be like working on is kind of like what it was working on. You'd mentioned I'd worked on The Gifted, and oddly, I played a special forces soldier. And that guy had mutant powers, but and it was really fun, but nowhere near the level of like the Marvel film,
Yeah. Do you know what were you able to watch the finished product? Was it at the world premiere? Was that your first time watching it in whole? Mm-hmm. And yes. What were your thoughts? Like when you're in a movie, and especially a Marvel movie, what are your thoughts watching it? Are you just like, oh man, that's really me on it? Or are you just like kind of nervous at the same time as it plays out with the big audience?
It's interesting because I rarely watch anything that I'm in, and this was an exception because I'm such a huge fan. So I would have seen the movie had I not been in it. But there's always that little bit of nervousness. You know, you're hoping, number one, that you're still in the movie because I've definitely been cut out of movies, and some of the scenes we shot in this film didn't make it in the final cut. You know, and that's just what happens.
Yeah.
You're also a little nervous that what you do up there looks okay. But I gotta say, 5 minutes in, I was just a fan watching a cool movie.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. And it's really cool to talk to people that have had an extensive career like you, but also pop into the MCU because it's almost it's one of the biggest things people talk about. It's like, I'm in the MCU. Like, you don't even say Marvel, you say MCU. Everyone knows exactly what you're talking about, to be a part of that big family that keeps growing and growing. But you're also in a great series I loved, which was Manhunt. Being, you know, as a history lover and poli sci guy, the historical thriller, you know, that deep into the Abraham Lincoln assassination. What was the most surprising thing that you maybe have learned when you were on that show?
Well, the first thing, a personal note that was very cool for me. One of the very first professional jobs ever booked was playing John Wilkes Booth in a film. And fast forward 10 years, playing the guy, Boston Corbett, who's the guy who hunts down and kills John Wilkes Booth. That was one of those like full circle moments for me. And that Manhunt was shot around Savannah, which is where I was born and raised, Savannah, Georgia. But it was, you know, I love history too, and that era of American history just fascinates me and always has. So that film, I mean, it was just reading the scripts. It was like reading, and they were so well written. It was like reading a very cool version of a history book. Now, because of the fact that I had played John Wilkes Booth in a film, I was kind of pretty familiar. So there's not a lot of like historical facts that surprised me. But I'll say this: Apple did an amazing job on that show, and they really put a lot of resources into it. Just the horses, and I mean, I remember one scene I did. You know, we were shooting it. Gosh, I guess it was like September. It was kind of warm in Savannah, and they built an entire city block of Boston in the 1850s with snow. They had like a snow blower just blowing snow everywhere. So you know, it was pretty amazing for a TV show. You know, the level of the production value on that kind of blew me away. And then when I watched it, it was one of those shows that I was very, very proud to be a part of.
Yeah, it's a really great show. People that love, you know, just history in general, just like to be entertained. I thought it did really well, putting a spotlight on some of the historical characters not people know about and not really know what happens, because, you know, unless you're reading something from a textbook or something, you're not going to know exactly what happened. But they did it in such an entertaining way, and the production value of that was super exciting. So I definitely had to mention Manhunt because I really did enjoy that. You know, last, I'm going to ask you this, you know, what's a dream role or genre that you haven't tackled yet that's like on your list? Like, you like, I want to be in this, or maybe tackle this type of genre.
Well, you know, I would love to do comedy. And for whatever reason, I haven't done a lot of comedy with this face, but I do think it would be a lot of fun. I've come close a couple of times, but I tend to play, you know, fairly intense. As if you've seen any of my work, I play fairly intense characters. But it would be fun to spend a little time laughing and joking and making people laugh.
I mean, I can see it. You're a lighthearted guy. Like during this whole thing, I can tell you're not like your characters.
Yeah, you know, I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I'm like the goofy, silly uncle that gets to take them around and embarrass them. So, yeah, I'm nothing like the characters that I play.
No, William, you're a true talent. I'm so glad you picked this path as your career. You've been delivering so many great stuff, whether it be TV shows or films, and I'm glad you made it into the MCU. That's a big one right there. And I'm really looking forward to what you deliver next.
I really appreciate it. And thanks so much for chatting with me today.